What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is the Blacklist Season 10, Episode 13, The Sicilian Error of Color. So this one, not really a blacklister involved or anything like that, which, is fine, because the few blacklister episodes we've had since the mid-season part have not been great. It feels like there might be losing their touch a little bit in writing those one-off episodes, so I don't mind getting a little bit more of a story-based episode. But this one, we do learn a bit more about Sia, about Mira, about Reddington, and there are some interesting theories that popped into my head while watching this that I thought I'd share. So first of all, with Reddington, obviously we know he's been acting a little weird this season. We know he's been a little bit more standoffish. It kind of feels like, and obviously I know this is the final season, so it makes sense that he's making plans for the end game. But it really feels like the writers are leaning heavily into that idea that this is the final thing for him, the final, I guess, act for Reddington. And so to see him going and collecting all of these old artifacts, giving them away, basically, it kind of feels like he's realizing that this is the end. Now, why is that? I'm not entirely sure, but we do know 2 seasons ago, the reason he was about to give up his entire operation organization to Liz is because he was deathly sick. Now, we've not actually talked about that since that season, at least that I can remember. And I'm pretty sure I don't remember if she was the only one that knew, actually. I think she might have told Wrestler. But we haven't really discussed this since that season. So either we're supposed to just assume actually he found a way to get better, or he still is sick. It's just he bought himself a few more years for however he did that. So maybe he realizes it's coming to an end. He's about to die soon. So time to just he doesn't have anybody he can just give his organization to now. So maybe he's kind of disbanding it in a way. So that's kind of a theory that popped in my head. Don't know how accurate that's going to be. The other theories, though, involve Sia and Mira, because for Mira, we're finally getting to see some of her backstory, which is kind of interesting considering we haven't really even discussed her since season 1. But what's very weird to me is they're showing these flashbacks, and they're showing this is supposed to be 1998, so a younger Mira. The woman they got to play Mira doesn't really look the same as the first actress that did. And I don't know if that's just because, maybe casting, I don't, maybe they dropped the ball. Maybe they couldn't find someone who looked similar to the original actress that played Mira, so they just got somebody with same, skin, hair color, and same accent. But I don't know. It feels like they've done a very good job of getting younger versions of other characters in the show. So for them to drop the ball on Mira feels a little weird to me. It feels almost intentional. I don't know if that's the case, but it kind of makes me wonder. We see her with a baby Sia, and Sia already knows that Mira's not her mother, so why would she have a baby Sia? My thought process is that the Mira Malik we knew is not the Mira Malik we're seeing in this flashback. That somehow she took on her identity. I don't know how that would happen, or maybe she just changed her face. I don't know. But it feels like this, it doesn't make sense to me that they got somebody that doesn't really look the same as the original Mira. At least to me. Maybe other people think she looks exactly the same. I don't see the similarities though. And again, because the show has done so well in the past, it feels like this is not just, oh, whoopsie, we messed up. So that's kind of a theory that popped into my head, as well as this Sutton guy that gets introduced, her partner that was working with MI6. We don't see his body. That's first and foremost, that is something that made me go, that's a little weird that he just dies off screen. Also, we're seeing as he's dying, we see Reddington giving Sutton's, I guess, wife or ex-wife. We see him giving her a stamp, and the way he's looking at her feels a little too obvious. So it feels like they're implying that maybe Reddington used to be Sutton that worked with the MI6. But the two things that I feel like kind of make me think that's not the case. If it is, then I'll be very disappointed. But one, this is the first mention of this guy. that we've heard, I think, in this entire series. Maybe not. Maybe we have heard of him before. Maybe his name was brought up and I'm just forgetting it. Maybe it was more of like a one-off thing. But this is the first time I can remember hearing the name Sutton. So the fact that if this is going to be, oh, this is who Raymond Reddington really used to be, was the Sutton guy. I mean, how are we gonna make the connection with him and Katarina? How are we gonna make the connection with him and Liz? All of that. That feels like you're gonna have to really stretch to make it make sense. But also, it kind of feels like it's just I don't know, again, too obvious. Like as he's giving Sutton's wife this stamp, he's just looking at her so longingly. Like it, you introduce this guy in the final season, who it could be Reddington, and then you make it so obvious that it's him because he's staring at Sutton's wife so lovingly. That to me, that feels like it's a hey audience, this is who Reddington is, like just smacking us over the head with it, and that's not what I'm used to with this show. I'm not used to this show just smacking the audience over the head with obvious symbolism. It feels like they're better at being subtle, at being creative, at revealing plot points in creative and intriguing ways that get you on the edge of your seat and wanting to see more, not just, hey, here's the answer, but we're not going to confirm it's the answer yet. So I don't know. I don't think this is going to be the truth. I don't think this is who Reddington's actually going to be. But at the same time, it kind of feels like it was brought up for some reason. And if it's not supposed to be another red herring, we've seen so many red herrings about Reddington throughout the show. Throughout all the seasons, there have been so many moments of, oh, this could be the truth. It could be this. And then they flip it on its head and go, ah, gotcha. You thought you knew, but you didn't actually. I feel like that's what this feels like, but because it's the last season, I don't see how you can give us a red herring and then still flip it on its head and go, actually, this is the truth. So I don't know for sure, but that's just kind of where my mind is going. We'll see what happens next. That's it for this one. So on to the next episode. I'll see you there in just a minute. And now for episode 14, The Nowhere Bride. So this one was pretty good. I think ultimately the case itself, what they were working on, the con ring, all of that, I thought it was well set up, well done. It was something that I feel like I've seen before, just this whole idea of somebody pretending to be something they're not to con somebody out of it. I'm pretty sure I've seen this in another show similar to the Blacklist, where somebody had a ring of cons working for them to con all of these people out of their money. So this is definitely something I've seen before. Also having the one guy be at the end all, oh, I actually do love her now, so I don't want to con her anymore. I mean, that's cliche as it comes. But what I do like is that most of the time when that happens, either the girl goes back to him or he dies, in trying to save her, trying to make things up to her or whatever. And it always seems to paint him in a good light. It always seems to make it seem like, oh, but he learned the meaning of love, and so it's okay that he conned her to begin with. I always hate that story whenever they do that. So I'm kind of glad that it ends with she sort of goes, okay, no, you're right. Like, he's not who I fell in love with. He's not the man I thought he was, and decides to move on. I think that was a good choice. And I just think how they set up, I think a lot of that ending with Dembe sort of telling off this Gemma woman, it's very true. What he was saying to her and how she handled her bad situation. People often talk about whenever you go through some sort of trauma, you can either use that to sort of feel pathetic, feel pitiful, self-pity, all of that stuff, use it to hurt other people, or you could use it to grow. And this is a case of she took something bad that happened to her, and instead of using it for good, she used it to hurt other people. And it's very sad that I feel like more often than not, that tends to be what happens. So, but as far as the stuff with C is concerned, it does feel like we are going with, that was Mira Malik. That was a younger version of Mira Malik. I even took like a picture of the actress that played Mira originally and then this younger version of her. I just looked at them side by side, and they're not the same person. I'm sorry. I look at, because we just had like a younger version of Dembe, a younger version of Harold recently this season. Both of them, I could see it. I could see the resemblance. I could see how they could be the same person. They looked very similar. I don't understand why we couldn't get anybody that looked like, I don't remember the actress's name now, but who played Mira originally. Like, I, it doesn't look the same at all. Not in the eyes, not in the nose, not in the mouth, and none of it looks the same. And I'm so confused. Like, how could you not get somebody that looks similar enough? You've done it so well throughout the series. Again, they've had several moments of a younger version of our current cast, and I feel like they've done so well. Maybe I'm just remembering wrong. Maybe it's always been bad, but my mind sort of blocked it out because I love the show so much. But man, that casting is poor, in my opinion. But anyways, what her story is doing right now, I still don't know what we're gonna do with Sutton, what we're gonna do with him possibly being Reddington. It seems like Reddington was talking about him in the third person, so maybe that's not the case. The thing is, I mean, he even talks about knowing what it feels like to be a parent and all of that. So we know he felt like Liz was his kid, even though I'm pretty sure, unless we're still going with the idea that maybe this is Katarina, somehow she became Raymond Reddington. I don't know how all of that makes sense, but he definitely believed that Liz was his kid, and he looked at her like a daughter. So it feels weird that this Sutton guy who was trying to use this baby that Mira had saved from Calcutta, that he would try to use that to blackmail her and then would go on to become Raymond Reddington, who fought so fiercely to keep Liz safe and all of that. It makes me feel like maybe that was wrong. My theory about him being. But what's weird to me is like, why did that scene happen? Like when he was looking at Sutton's wife, there's something there. You know, the look he was giving her was not just a, oh, hey, you really like stamps, huh? No, there was a look there that meant something. He knew her in a past life somehow. I don't know how. And again, maybe this is something from the past that I'm just forgetting, but it feels like there is a connection here. But it feels weird that we've not heard about Sutton or his wife until this season, until the final season. So it'd be weird for Reddington's identity to be tied to them after so long being connected to Katerina Rostova, the real Raymond Reddington, everything that happened with the KGB, all of that stuff, all of that connection. And then it's suddenly just, hey, by the way, there's this MI6 officer and his wife, and Reddington seems to know his wife somehow. I don't know. It just feels weird, but I, maybe they've got a plan that I'm not aware of. Maybe there's something that they're working on that the writers, hey, let them cook. Maybe they got something planned for the rest of the season that when they reveal it, I'm just going to be blown away. But definitely for the moment, it feels very odd and feels very directionless. So we'll see where it's going to go, but that's it for this episode. So on to the final of these three. I'll see you there. And finally, episode 15, the hat trick. So this one, again, brings up some interesting theories about Reddington and what's actually going on with him. I'm still pretty convinced that he's likely coming to an end. You know, he realizes this, he realizes that he may not be around for much longer, and this is his way, everything he's doing is his way of kind of making sure, since Elizabeth is not going to be taking over, since she's not around, this is his way of kind of making sure everything is taken care of. You know, and Agnes is well taken care of, because obviously she's not old enough to take over his organization. So that's kind of what my thinking is at the moment. It is kind of interesting, because obviously we know what happened. We know Gerard is gone. We've not even heard Hetty brought up. That just sort of popped into my head. in this episode. I don't know what's going on with her. I don't know if we'll hear from her again, but it is kind of interesting that some of those people, we saw, was that the last? That was the last episode. We saw him meet up with Weecha again, and we see that apparently she's working for somebody else. So I don't really know if we're going to see anybody from his organization again anytime soon, outside of the one guy that we've seen pop up every now and then. But it feels weird that some of them, they've not even had their names mentioned this season. I don't know if that means anything. I feel like I'm picking meaning out of things that don't really have any meaning to them, but that's just where my brain goes because I'm so used to the show having meaning in every little thing. But ultimately, I think there are some things this season that unfortunately are just being done with no real reason, which is a little disappointing. But as far as this case, though, seeing how the three that he gave them, the three blacklisters, because let's be fair, these were definitely not blacklisters, but seeing how they all connected and how he's trying to get these corrupt people out of this organization that he does want to help, I think that's a good story. On top of that, seeing that conversation with him and Dembe at the end is also very interesting and brings up, again, more thoughts about what he's going through and what could possibly be, what could he be dealing with at this moment. So, yeah, I think it was a good episode in that sense. Also, seeing him try to figure out more about Hudson, try to figure out what's his dirty little secret. And ultimately, it seems like Hudson might be a stand up guy. And I kind of had that thought at one point whenever he was talking about trying to get information about him. It seems like Hudson is just very straight laced by the book, almost kind of a primordial wrestler in a way, where before wrestler got corrupted by everything that he did with Reddington, kind of seems like that's what Hudson is. So in that sense, he is kind of the good guy in a way, because Reddington is a criminal. He does probably need to pay for some of his crimes. So Hudson does seem like the guy that in a typical story, we'd probably be rooting for Hudson, but of course, our main character is not the typical good guy. So it kind of brings up possibilities that I find intriguing, and I hope they explore them, and I hope they really do a good job of fleshing out this battle between Reddington and Hudson and the task force being involved as well, because it feels like it could be a really fun ending for the series. To go up against a guy who is not corrupt, he can't be blackmailed, he can't just be threatened away. He is a legitimate good guy, one that Reddington is not. I mean, he's never gone after people that are purely innocent, that are purely good people. He goes after the corrupt people, the corrupt politicians, the ones that are in it for themselves. But this Hudson guy seems like he's not just in it for himself. He's in this fight, he's in this investigation looking into the task force because he wants to know the truth, because he wants to make sure that what they're doing is correct, is good. But of course, now, after everything Reddington did, after wiping his name out and all of that, they can't prove any of this. And honestly, even if they could, Hudson seems like the type of guy that I'm not entirely sure he would be convinced that what the task force was doing is a good thing. So it really does set up for a fun finale, in my opinion. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what's going to happen next and how this is all going to wrap up. So, all that being said, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these 3 episodes? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Blacklist reviews. And until next time, I hope you guys have a great day. And I'll talk to you all later. Peace out.